If you're still in the chat, press 1 if you can hear me. Okay, so you can hear me. Okay, okay. All right, I'll just start from the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new story using custom AI based on the custom GPT models that I built not a few weeks ago, but last month. I finally got done with them. But I'm going to take an idea. I'm going to have Idea GPT flesh it out like I did here. I'm gonna have it flesh it out, and then I'm gonna take that idea to Plot GPT, and then in Plot GPT, I'll have it do some more plotting, and then I'll take that information and then go ahead and do some story dev, flesh out my characters that'll move the story forward and the plot forward, develop the settings and the locations that will be needed to drive the story forward. What else is in there? Magic, lore. There's going to be some lore for this story idea, so I can go into that. I can also go into describing how the characters actually look inside Story Dev GPT, and I'll take all that information and then I'll move on to outlining everything. So usually I write 30 chapters. So for each chapter, I'll have it outline a certain amount of beats for that chapter. And then each beat will be a certain amount of words, which I'm aiming for 2,000 words per chapter. And then I can take those beats, plug it into either Novel GPT. It's a broad model trained on a variety of different ways to write a particular genre. Then you have Romance, which is trained on romance beats. So if you have a romance, you're going to want to use that. The same thing for science fiction, mystery, horror, nonfiction, thriller, mystery, even fantasy. They're all trained in different ways that are that your reader will enjoy. So, for example, fantasy, there's a lot of training on fantasy tropes, common tropes, cliches, things like that is trained on those specifically. So my story kind of blends in between science fiction and fantasy, but I would say it's more fantasy than science fiction. It's almost like superheroes, gods, myths, stuff like that. So I'll use fantasy GPT for that, but I'll also have some science fiction elements under it. And then we'll have our chapters. Once we have our chapters, we can go through Editor GPT, do some developmental editing, make sure, do some proofreading, make sure there's no weird sentence structures, check continuity, and just do a lot of quality control before we hire a beta reader. For me, I'm going to have a beta reader, a developmental editor read it, someone who just reads fiction for fun read it, and then I'm gonna get all their perspectives and see if they can tell that it was actually written by someone who is not human. Because based on Voice Architect, it's going to mimic your writing style. So my writing style right here, I can get even more detailed with this by copying and pasting paragraphs from previous books, previous blogs, things like that, and then plugging it into this Voice Architect, and then it'll write my chapters based on how I write, my tone, um, my sentence structures, common sentence structures, things like that. And then that'll be it. I do have plans on taking this story to some virtual filmmaking, and then I can show you how to actually use. Um, it's not in here right. Oh, here it is. Scriptwriter. How to use Scriptwriter to turn this novel into a series, but script it out for you. So it'll write the dialogue, it'll write the scenes, things like that. But that'll be in the future. I'm still building that one out. So I already have my idea in Idea GPT. I plugged in my story idea as well as my writing style. So it will flesh out the idea based on um, my style in here, type of dialogue, rhythm, things like that, narrative voice. It'll take that in consideration when creating it. So it expanded that story idea, this one right here. I'll let you take a look at it real quick. Pause the video. All right, so that's the idea. I saved it as a doc, but you don't have to save it as a doc. You can just paste it inside of here when you prompt it to expand or flesh out my story idea using my writing style. So I'm going to take this idea and plugging it into a new document. Actually, let's keep it here. Let's keep it here. I'm gonna keep that idea right here, and I'm gonna say fleshed out idea. Paste that right there. So idea, fleshed out idea. And I'm gonna download this as a Word document. All right, so I have my idea. I'm gonna go into Plot GPT and I'm going to tell it to plot this idea. I'm also gonna plug in my writing style. Okay. Let's say plot a 30 chapter outline. Plot a 30 chapter outline with 4 beats per chapter using the story idea. And my writing style. Now, when it's doing this, you're going to want to watch how it's actually plotting your story idea, because you're going to know how you want it to flow and the pacing. And if the pacing seems too fast, you're going to want to stop it, and you're going to want to clarify the pacing so that it doesn't put the climax super fast and then try to come up with something extra to fill in the rest of the chapters. So see, here's an example right here. So what we're going to do, let me do this over. I'm going to say plot a 30 chapter outline with 4 beats per chapter using the story idea in my writing style documents attached. Start with chapters 1 through 10. All right, so this one isn't clear. Let me try this. Because Plot GPT isn't really trained on outlining, so let's avoid outlining for Plot GPT and just say plot a story from story idea document using my writing style. All right, so it's giving me a 4-act structure. This is much better. Yeah, I shouldn't have been using it to like plot and outline in the first place because it's not trained on that. So here's my plot. I'm going to take this plot and I'm going to move it to my master file. I'm just reading this over to make sure the act is like something I actually want to flesh out. Because if it's a story you don't like, you don't want to actually move past this part. But so far, it's sounding good. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That is good. It didn't really go into like detail about like backstory or lore, but I can do that in Story Dev GPT, flesh that out. And then when I put these all together inside Fantasy GPT or whatever model you decide to use, once we put all these together, it'll follow the idea, plug the idea along with the plot. And then once we get to outline, it'll take the outline as well. And then our model will be able to flesh it out based on our outline. And I feel like this story, there's a lot that can be a lot of detail that can be brought out into the story. So I'm thinking about doing maybe 50 chapters for it instead of my normal 30. If I did 50 chapters, each chapter about 2,000 words, that'll be 100,000. 100,000 words for that novel, which is a lot. But the story is very interesting, so I will go ahead and proceed with it. So I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to paste this plot inside my master file. I'm going to say plot. Plot. Do that. Paste. So we have the plot, fleshed out idea, and the idea. Now we can move on to StoryDev, and I'm going to download this again. We have idea, and plot. Download that as a Word document. So now we're going to move on to StoryDev GPT. I'm going to attach my master file as well as my writing style. And I'm going to tell it to create a cast of characters that will move the plot forward. All right, so we got a nice cast of characters here. They don't have a name, but we can give them names later on. First, I'm going to tell it to I can build the lore later. Let's say, actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's say create lore for, in the story, the kid has a friend, and the reason he's angry with his father is because the friend destroyed that race of people and then destroyed the planet. So he has some resentment for that. So let's create lore about what happened. So create lore for the king killing his son's friend and their planet. So now it's creating lore around this event. We have the planet's name. We have friends of the prince, the king's motivation, the actual event, and the impact on the narrative. And we can repeat this process over and over until we have an extremely fleshed out world, depending on what you're writing. So if it's fantasy, this is something that you're going to want to do, and you can have fun with this. If you don't like something, change it. Select what you don't like. So like the impact on narrative, I can just prompt it to tell it what I want the impact on the narrative to be, and it'll create that for me, and then I'll just plug it back in when I add everything to my Word document. You could just do the same with the event if you want something in the event or the incident, whatever you're writing. If you want it to be changed, select it, plug it into the chat down here, and then prompt it to change it. So now let's say give me or name each character or so give each character in the cast a name. I'm gonna have it name each character, and then I'm going to tell it to name the friends, because this is important to the story. Name the friends of the prince. And then I can tell it to describe this event in detail. That way, when the flashback happens in the story, I already have that fleshed out and I can just plug it in. So you kind of like have to think ahead if you want to get the best story, and you can just plug in those critical elements that you need in your story. You can get those, plug them into a document, and have the models write it when it's time to actually write the chapter. So that's done. I have the character's name, each character for the cast. Now I can tell it to give each friend let's say you had 3 friends. Give each friend a name based on their planet. So now it's going to give me names and some information about the name of the character for each of the friend. And if I don't like these names, I can change them, but it gives me a good starting point. So I can change something about the name. I can switch them around if I don't like them within my master document. So let's go ahead and copy all of this so far into a Word document. Open up a master file. And then this is going to be story development. I'm going to paste that there. So we got the cast. Let me create a number these. And then let's paste the rest of that. So this backstory, let's paste this in. Okay, so what else do we need for this story? We need some locations. I mean, we can describe some physics. We can describe the city that he's from. So it's giving me some details about the city. For this story, I want the whole planet to just be this mega city of just paradise. Science, paradise, gold, royal, but at the same time have like a science fiction feel to it. Flying cars, stuff like that, or flying people, since they have some crazy abilities. Um, let's say describe. All right, describe the entire planet. How the entire planet is a sci-fi kingdom with advanced technology, weaponry, and the strongest soldiers across the galaxy. Okay, let me stop this. Yeah, it created technology for one of the planets that was destroyed when it wasn't supposed to. So I'll have to redo that over. But in the meantime, I'm going to move on. I'm going to copy what I have about this city into my Word document. I'll do the lore and stuff later. But just for the sake of time, I don't want to hold you all day. Let's paste this in here. All right, so I'm going to download this new master file. And I'm going to move on to creating an outline. So I'm going to move on to outline GPT. And I'm going to attach that document. So I'm going to attach that. I'm also going to attach my writing style. And let's say create a outline. Create a 50 chapter outline that has 4 beats per chapter. Each beat should follow, and let's just see now let's say each beat will be expanded to 500 to 600 words. Per beat. Start with chapters 1 through 9. All right, so let me stop this. I don't think this is following my story, so let me clarify. Use my story idea attached. Story idea. And story development. To create a 50 chapter outline that has 4 beats per chapter. Each beat will be expanded to 500 to 600 words per beat. Start with chapters 1 through 9. Yeah, it had a character named Nora. There's no Nora in this outline, so I think because I didn't tell it to use my documents, it started to write its own. All right, looks like I'm gonna have to change something on the back of this model. Let me double check real quick. Let's try this. Let's try this prompt. Okay, there we go. So now it's following my story idea. Not sure why I was working at first with that other prompt, but if you do have Novel GPT and you're trying this out, just use this prompt right here or the one that's under the video inside the product. So now it's writing the chapters. Once this is done, I can plug it into Fantasy GPT or Science Fiction GPT and start writing these chapters. And I'm gonna show you just before I go, I'll show you, for example. But I'm gonna work on this on the back end. Yeah, chapter 9 is actually, I don't know, sounds actually exciting to read once it's finished. Okay, so here are the 10 chapters. I am going to copy and paste them into my master file. Scroll down. I'm going to hit that, call this chapters, paste those there. So we got our idea, fleshed out idea, plot, an expanded plot based on the 4-act structure. We have our story development. We have some backstory. We can get more detailed on this, which I will. We have locations and structures. We have culture of one of the worlds. We have a description about the place the prince was born and the place he's destined to rule. And then we got our chapters. So 50 will be here when I'm done. But just to show you it actually writing the chapters, I'm going to download this as it is and have it just out write chapter 1. Let me call this story idea, plot, story dev, and chapters. Download this as a Word document. Now I'm going to open up Sci-Fi GPT. I might do Fantasy GPT just to test it and see what it does differently. If I like the other one better, I'll choose that. But I'll attach my master file, and then I'm going to attach my writing style, and then I'm going to give it this prompt. All right, so here's the prompt right here. Using my unique writing style, write beat 1 of chapter 1. The narrative is detailed and in third person. Each beat should be 500 to 600 words. The pacing must match the story arc. Dialogue should make up let's say 55% of the chapter. Do not end the beat or chapter with the chapter concludes with, the chapter ends with, or anything besides the narrative. All right, so here's my chapter. I'm going to be honest, I don't like how it started. So I'm going to I'm probably going to change that once I actually finish. But you get the idea. You can take everything we developed so far, our story idea, our characters, some lore, um, some technology, and then as well as the chapters, and then plugging that in along with your unique writing style to get it to clone the way you write and tell stories. It'll produce the narrative following your writing style. So the more data you can give it inside this document, the better output you'll get for your narrative. All right, so once I have the chapter, I'll go ahead and copy this chapter inside a new Word document. Call this chapter 1. And then paste the chapter. So that's beat 1. Let's say continue to beat 2. Say 20%. So this will be beat 2 of the first chapter. Turn on my word counter. 577 words for that first beat. All right, so that's beat 2. Let me paste this in again. And we'll change this to beat 3 of chapter 1. Let's say 25%. Hit enter. And now I'm going to copy beat 2 and paste it inside my manuscript. So now I'm at 1,216 words. You always make sure you're reading these while it's going, or after you paste everything, read it. And if there's anything you don't like, change it. If the pacing's not going the way you want, redo it and change the pacing. Get more specific about the pacing. So now I'm gonna do the last beat. Paste this in. Write beat 4 of chapter 1. Keep it at 25. And then I'm gonna copy beat 3 while that's writing into my manuscript. Paste that. Now we're at 1,800 words. So this chapter will definitely be over 2,000 words per chapter for the chapter. And then once I get to 50, I'll probably be at 100,000 words. Okay, so we have our last beat. Let me copy this into my manuscript. So this chapter has 2,300 words. And then I'll repeat this process from chapter 2 all the way to chapter 50. Make sure I'm reading, doing quality control while I'm reading through, making sure there's no continuity or plot issues. And then I take it to Editor GPT, do some more quality control in that. And then I'll have a beta reader read it and a developmental editor run through it just to get their perspective. I'm not going to tell them that I use AI because I want to get their genuine and honest opinion of the writing as well as the storytelling. So I'm going to be working on that. I'll probably be back tomorrow doing this again for a different story or just fleshing this one out. So you'll see along the way of me building this novel with AI. So with that being said, if you want to use these models, head over to 4hournovel.com. And then you'll be able to grab these models. And if you get the masterclass, you'll also have video walkthroughs for pretty much every model inside, as well as Beta Reader GPT, which I finally released a few days ago. So far, people are telling me that they love it. You'll have to check it out for yourself, see how it works for you. But yeah, grab Novel GPT if you want to use those models. I will see you in the next video. Take care.